Welcome to In Touch, Think STEM Career Podcast. My name is Dr. Aeronautics, the host of this podcast. STEM is vital to our community because our community's health, economy, and future depends on our solid foundation and participation in innovation taking place in the STEM field. This podcast explores the evolving world of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics in underrepresented community, including the Blacks, the Indigenous, the people of color. As the STEM field continues to evolve, this podcast will attempt to connect with men and women who are champions of and in STEM education and careers to gain insight into how the BIPOC community can be part of the STEM innovation and how to inspire and support the creation of innovation involve collaboration with these champions. Today, I am privileged and I am fortunate and I am honored to have on this program Dr. Terrier. Dr. Terrier is the Associate Director for Vision Strategy at NASA Johnson Space Center. Before being named Associate Director, Dr. Terrier was NASA Chief Technologist, serving as the Principal Advisor to NASA administrators, our technology policy and investment strategy, and advocating for technology with the Congress, the White House, industry, academia, and other federal agencies. As the Associate Director for Vision and Strategy at NASA Space Center, Dr. Terrier is responsible for leading the strategy, creation, integration, and overall execution of JSC's ongoing transformation initiative, revolutionizing the center's policy, plan, and process around the workforce, facilities, and products to advance human space flight. That sounds like a bigger responsibility and sounds a little complicated to me. What do you do again, Dr. Terrier?
Well, hello, Dr. Lafade. It's my pleasure and my honor to also be on your podcast. And I want to begin by thanking you for the excellent work that you're doing to help us as a partner. And we look at you as a partner with NASA to help to stimulate the interest in STEM and STEAM careers with our young people, which are absolutely vital to our mission and to the success of our nation and the world in general. So thank you for what you're doing. And it's my pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you.
So,
go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
My fundamental mission here at NASA, I help to lead the center at Johnson Space Center currently. As you mentioned, I was previously the chief technologist for the agency, guiding the overall technology portfolio. But today I'm focused on what we recognize at NASA is a necessary transformation that we must go through to take advantage of and build on the 60-year legacy of success that we've had as times have changed and technologies have changed. We need to change as an organization to ensure that we're staying at the leading edge of technology, at the leading edge of exploration. Just encapsulate simply, we want to ensure that Johnson Space Center remains the hub of human spaceflight for the world community as we go forward into the 21st century. And to do that, we have to transform our workforce, our facilities, our processes to work at the speed of business as we see more private sector investment, more innovative approaches being brought into space flight and a broader international community, frankly. And our efforts center around how we can evolve our processes, our products, our people, and our facilities to really engage that entire community and serve as a hub to enable the success of the entire community. And one of the things that is critical in doing that is that we need the best and the brightest minds from the entire community. We really are facing we have all the technical problems, all the technical challenges that are just as critical as they were in the 60s and 70s and 80s in the past decades. but we also have a growing complexity of the business picture in space with the private sector and the government, and how we collaborate and how we work together, as well as the international community, which is proliferating rapidly to include not just the first world nations, the big countries, and particularly, as I said, the government investments from those countries, but really we have both new emerging spacefaring nations in the developing world, and we have a tremendous amount of private sector entrepreneurs from across the world that are participating in this. And we want to serve that entire community in the success of human exploration and advancing both our progress in space and how that impacts us on Earth, and particularly with our youth and our communities, to see that benefit come back right here to Earth.
Excellent. Thank you so much, sir, for that's the great summary of what NASA is doing and NASA's effort. If I understand, Dr. Terrier, you are from Jamaica.
Correct.
Can you share with us, so how did you, I mean, because, this program, my audience, underrepresented community. As you know, a lot of young people, one of the challenge is trying to build up their self-esteem that they can do it. As a man with a background, Jamaican heritage, coming to a very important position at NASA, do you care to share a little bit background about you, about yourself, and if you were asked also what matters to you, and what were the roots of that to to guide you to become a very important decision maker at NASA? What will it be?
Well, yeah, I would love to. It's quite a, for me, quite a story that is essentially underpins my entire philosophy and what drives my passion for this business and how I try to live my life. So I'll tell you a quick story. I was actually born in the, so I'm a little older than you. I was born in the post-colonial era in Jamaica. Got independence in 1962. And like many developing countries, we went through a very, very tumultuous period with the proxy wars between the East and West, and, a lot of political and even violence that, was really very, very unsettling, very disruptive to the entire nation as they were trying to develop from a developing post-colonial economy. So I was born into that reality. That was, to be honest, it was quite. There wasn't a lot to be optimistic about when you looked around you and saw, poverty. We certainly were in a situation where we lacked the resources to see a lot of opportunity for advancement. But I was very fortunate. I went to school in a rural part of my dad worked in a mining community, so we're in a rural part of the country, away from all the glamour of the tourists, lights on the coast and so on. In fact, many of my schoolmates had no running water, no electricity, etc. So, very, very simple beginnings. And we were very fortunate to have a woman, an educator like yourself. Her name is Mrs. Iris Simpson, who had the presence of mind in 1969 to read to us. We didn't have television, of course,
Wow.
but we had the local newspaper, and it had the Reuters feed of the Apollo missions. And she stopped class for that entire week and read to us every day the transcript of the telemetry from Apollo spacecraft to mission control in Houston, Texas. And of course, it culminated with the words, Houston, Tranquility Base, the Eagle has landed. And in that moment, we were all transported from a world that seemed very limited and maybe, lacking an opportunity, to the realization that the possibilities were infinite. If these guys can do this, anything is possible.
Absolutely.
Because as you may know, at that time, that was considered almost magic that humans could go to the moon. It was considered by many people as an impossible achievement.
Mission,
and
right.
we were able to do that as an entire community, right? So that is what changed my life. And that propelled me to, whatever it took, I wanted to. I didn't know where Houston was. I didn't understand why these people were talking like cowboy accents and exploring space. But I knew I wanted to be a part of that team, and I wanted to be a part of that experience. And it really opened up for me the realization that anything is possible if you apply yourself. And so, of course, I I dedicated myself to the task of doing the very hard work of going through school, college, getting a PhD, so forth. Had a lot of great mentors, and I find myself in this very honored to be in this position today. And if there's one message I want to was send to my passion then is really about paying that back to our young people to help to show that hopefully some of us can be an example of there's no limits if we're
Yes.
willing to do the work, and we're fortunate to have good mentors and good people like yourself that are guiding young folks. There is no limit to the opportunities that are available for us, and that's my passion.
Thank you so much, Dr. Terrier. That was a great story. That was a great inspiration. I think sharing, something, making yourself vulnerable, like sharing stories like that, it is what makes you human. It is what makes uh, students, young people, being able to connect with someone like you. And it's also something that causes that inspires them to see themselves greater than what they are, despite the environment, despite the challenge that they go through. I love the story of not having television, but your teacher reading the transcript from that.
Yes.
That is amazing. That is incredible. By the way, is your teacher still alive? Is she
No, she passed recently, and I believe we're going to have a reunion
okay?
in Jamaica this summer to honor her. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, it will. Well, you make her very proud. You make her very
Yeah, I hope so.
proud. So NASA has led our nation and the world in continue with the human adventure, exploring and discovering and achieving for more than 50 years. As a matter of fact, the center has played a vital role powering our country into the 21st century through technology, innovation, and scientific discovery. And my favorite of NASA's accomplishments is NASA's reconnaissance of our solar system using the orbital spacecraft like the Hubble Telescope. It has given a better understanding of our solar system. So in 2022, I will say that NASA have accomplished so much from taking the first step to returning to the moon through the Artemis first mission to unfolding the mystery of the universe with the James Webb Space Telescope and successful testing our asteroid defense capability. So with all this great accomplishment that NASA has made, especially in 2022, what's next for 2023?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. It's actually, I think we are very fortunate to be at one of the most exciting times in space exploration. We have more, diversity of programs across the spectrum coming up in 2023 and the years to come. And we stand to see discoveries that will actually change everything we know about human existence in the universe in the years ahead and the decades ahead. So, among the many things we have on the docket coming up for this year, of course, we are looking forward to a continued flight. One of the things that we've done successfully as we explore the universe, we're trying to ensure that we do that in a way that allows that we kind of create, if you will, the framework, the railroad that provides the transportation system out into the universe, out into the solar system, but also provides opportunity for commercial development in the wake of that, and provides the opportunity for commercial success both in space with commercial companies and also with the spin-off technologies that give us opportunities on the ground. So, for example, we set as a goal some years ago to successfully commercialize low Earth orbit. So if you think about the entire domain that we're exploring, as you mentioned, everything from all the way to from the surface of the Earth, the observable universe, right?
Yes.
And you used a really good word as you described the role of the different techniques and technologies we use, one way to think of it is a continuum of capabilities with the observatories like James Webb, like before that, the Hubble, really prospecting, looking at what's out there, discovering what's out there, way out to the extremes of the universe in both in dimensions, in spatial dimensions and time dimensions, most importantly. So we're looking back with the James Webb to about 13.3 billion years ago.
Wow.
Within a few 100 million years of the Big Bang, we're able to see back to the beginning of time and the
It's
formation of
incredible.
basic structures. It's absolutely incredible. I often tell students it's very important to think of these observatories not just as exploring the dimension of distance and space, but really they're more time machines. They're exploring the time history of the universe, and that's what we're really observing and learning. But that tells us what's out there. And then we send our robotic prospectors. If you look at them as avatars that go in front of ahead of the humans, like the rovers on Mars. We've explored every planet in our solar system has now been visited by a robotic explorer, and we have the Voyager spacecraft going into the heliopause, out into interstellar space beyond our solar system. So those are kind of doing that scouting ahead of the humans, and then of course we come behind that with the human exploration that has certainly established a presence, long duration, 20-year presence in low Earth orbit. We've been to the moon, returning to also establish a permanent presence in the moon and its vicinity. And we'll continue to progress out as we learn more and we have the technology. And then the final part is we also want to see the opportunity for commercial development follow in the wake of all that. So we're trying to do this exploration in a way that maximizes the opportunity for commercial success. So to answer your question about what's coming up, we have, as I said, done I think a very good job of commercializing low Earth orbit. So we're going to see, in fact, we have coming up in the next few weeks, next month, we have another mission from SpaceX, which is a commercial provider taking astronauts and cargo into space. We'll see 2 of those missions this year. In addition, we have a second provider in Boeing that's expected to fly their test flight this year. So a lot going on that front. As you mentioned, the Artemis, so that's kind of the commercial maturity in the low Earth orbit region. In the meantime, we're focusing on extending the human presence with the Artemis system out to the moon and then eventually beyond to Mars. And we have successfully tested the spacecraft last year. And now we're working this year very diligently to get the first human flight off in the near future to see humans return to the moon for the first time in 50 years, right?
Yeah,
So,
no.
and it's very important to tell our audience that this is not, when we went originally, as you do with every exploration, we really went on a camping trip. We packed all the stuff we needed for our duration. The very first missions, Apollo 11 and 12, were only a few hours on the surface. Many
Yes.
people don't realize this. The final missions were only 2 days on the surface. So we were able to pack all the commodities, consumables, food, water, oxygen that we needed. We now are moving into a new type of exploration where it's about living and working off the land, learning how to sustainably develop the energy, the fuel, the oxygen from the resources in situ, and to create a permanent living and working environment there on the surface of the moon. So it's a very different approach, requires a lot more technology. So that's what we are looking forward to this year. In addition, we have a couple other commercial endeavors that we are using that model that I mentioned in low Earth orbit and extending it to the moon. So we have robotic spacecraft that are complements to the Artemis mission, doing the prospecting of the surface materials and understanding how to process materials on the surface. We have Astrobotics as one small company that has come to the forefront, and Intuitive Machines. Both are expected to fly flights to the moon this year. And when I say commercial, these are almost, we're buying this service in a commercial contract. So it's a very different model of intentionally stimulating that commercial space environment, right? In the meantime, we are working very closely. I mentioned before the emerging spacefaring nations. That includes many nations in Africa, South America, South Korea, in addition to the usual suspects, the big countries in Europe and Japan and Canada and so on. But we're expanding the collaborative international community in space in the Artemis Accords. And that's something that I think is very important not just for harnessing the entire community in this endeavor, but for building a consortium, building a consensus, and
I love
building
that.
bridges among the international community, which is one of the most, I think, important and successful functions that NASA helps to provide.
Yeah, I love
So it's
that.
an exciting year ahead. It's just an
Yeah,
exciting time.
it appears to me, and I love the idea of the collaboration between the commercial sector and the government, and also the collaboration between United States and other countries. Most especially, did I hear Africa? Right?
Yes, we have African countries and Middle Eastern countries that are now signing up to these Artemis Accords. So, it's such an encouraging time
Yes.
because we have so much talent and so much enthusiasm around the world. And one of the things that we have learned in our experience in International Space Station, which you may know was 15 countries were the original signatories and partners in the International Space Station. We've actually flown participants from Saudi Arabia and Brazil and other countries beyond that original partnership. But when we learn in International Space Station is when we architect a system like Apollo, where our goal was simply to, not, it was very difficult technical goal, but it was a very, the boundaries were very well set, the criteria. We wanted to get to the moon first, wanted to demonstrate a certain technical achievement, right? And we did that with a monolithic, single vehicle, architected, vertically integrated. The International Space Station, by contrast, was designed from the outset to be a vehicle of engineering and scientific exploration, but also one of international collaboration. So by design, it's a modular system where different countries the Europeans provide one module, the Japanese provide experimental model, science module, the Russians, the Americans all provide pieces. And then smaller nations like Canada, for example, which may not have the resources to provide a full module, but they provided the robotic arm. So we try to structure it in a way that you can participate at different levels.
Yeah.
Take that model and move it now to the Artemis program and the exploration of the moon and beyond. We want to have that same model where we provide opportunities at different levels of participation, depending on the resources a country has available, but that in so doing, they become a full partner in the benefits that we get as a community from space exploration. So I think it's a wonderful model.
I like it. I like that model. The mission like that of NASA, it's impossible to achieve without, the involvement of all humanity. And I'm so happy that NASA is doing that. You're involving other countries. Everybody can pitch in, right? Everybody can be part of this. After all, it's for our own benefit as a human race, right? So it's not just for one country. And that actually leads me to this question. So in addition to creating the future for humanity in the stars and involving life on Earth, NASA has another critical mission here. And I think you've started talking about it briefly. NASA is also trying to address the issue of diversity in the workforce. NASA, as you know, like I just said, NASA can only achieve its task by creating a future for humanity in the stars and improving by involving all American, all humanity, right, in a diverse society. In 2021, towards that effort, to meet that effort, NASA actually launched a goal addressing equity through a comprehensive effort to assess the expansion, modification of agency program, procurement, grants, policy, examining what potential barriers and challenges exist for historically underrepresented, underserved community. To this end, NASA has issued a request to the underrepresented community for information in order to receive input on how NASA can actually complete its mission directory, procurement, grants, regulation, and policy. This information will be used or is being used by NASA to evaluate, implement, modify, expand, and streamline its program, procurement, grants, regulation, and policy to remove systemic inequalities, right, and challenges facing underrepresented community. So NASA is really doing a lot of this. So can you talk a little bit on that more than what I've just shared with the audience, please?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for asking that question. This is a
Yes, sir.
very important, and I want to state that it's not just something that is good to do. It's something that's necessary to do, because as I
Me,
mentioned,
apologies, Douglas. If I could just interject, I just wanted to bring cognizant to time.
No
We
problem.
have minimal time left, so just want to
Okay.
make sure we want to wrap it up. Thank you.
No problem.
all right,
Thank you.
all right, no, all right. Thank you, Jasmine. Yeah, thank you for that question.
Yes, sir.
We are. It's very important to note that we're not embarking on this approach for equity and inclusion and diversity in our workforce because it's not only because it's a good thing to do, but because it's a necessary thing to do. As I mentioned, when we talk about the exploration plans we have in the future, they are far more ambitious than anything we've done in the past. And we absolutely need to draw on all the resources we can from across the entire community.
Yes.
We want to find the brightest minds with the brightest ideas, and frankly, with a diverse set of backgrounds that bring different kinds of solutions. One of my responsibilities as the chief technologist was to lead our innovation initiatives here at NASA. And one of the things we discovered working with the national academies is that people with different cultural backgrounds, people with different lived experiences, approach problems differently. And we can find when we talk about innovation, the approach, the way we see problems, the perspective we bring to the problem can bring very different perspectives, very different solutions from outside the conventional way of looking at a problem. So it is absolutely imperative that we are able to access and involve and draw on all the intellectual capability we have across the nation and indeed across the world in our community. Particularly, as you said, maybe some of the communities that have been less involved and had less access over time that have so much to contribute. So we at NASA are very proactively seeking the best minds and the best solutions. And we want to be sure that we are making sure there are no barriers for that may have existed in the past to enable everyone to participate in this. I can tell you that, as I mentioned, I have done quite a bit of outreach myself with historically Black community college, historically Black institutions, universities, underserved communities in general. And one of the things we learned, which was surprising, is that the students perceive that there is, maybe this is something, that there are barriers or it's beyond their reach to aspire to these careers in NASA, for example, in some cases. And I can relate to that very much personally. I mentioned the story we started with, where had it not been for that Mrs. Simpson, I would not have even had the imagination to think that there's something outside of the limited community I was exposed to growing up, right? So this is something we want to be sure that we are being very proactive about reaching out and getting the word out that, hey, we have opportunities here. We have a very critical need to involve the brightest minds from around the country and around the world, and we're a welcoming place. And the opportunities couldn't be more, not just, as I said, available, but urgent and necessary that we have participation from the entire community. And we'll make sure we provide you with some resources for the various pathways to get into that, which include our internships that are available. We also have an intern pathways program that is a structured program to involve particularly undergraduate students and to become involved in NASA programs. We have K through 12 programs that are designed to provide real learning, hands-on experiences that are not just instructional, but that are designed to provide solutions that we can incorporate in our missions. So really bringing even the young kids into helping to solve these problems. But as you know, the young people, they look at problems completely differently, right? Talking about a diverse and innovative workforce that we haven't involved, right? So we want to get them involved early. And again, in a way that allows them to participate in solutions. And I will also mention that we have an international intern program as
Oh,
we
nice.
see our community expanding into the international communities, particularly into the developing world. We want to make sure we make opportunities for those children, those kids and students to participate as well. So it's just an exciting time. And I'll make sure our community, we provide to you, our team provides you with the resources and the links to those sites so that
Thank you.
our listeners can get involved.
Thank you so much, Dr. Terrier. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. I believe what you have shared, your experience and all the information you have shared will be very encouraging and very motivating to our community. I want to thank you personally and also the NASA community for all the work that you've been doing, that you're doing, and most especially the effort that you are making in order to involve our community. As I have said, when it comes to the exploration of space and the betterment of humanity, it has to involve every community. So I believe that NASA is a trendsetter, continue to do that, and believe our community are going to meet you halfway. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Terrier, and to talk to you soon. Have a great day, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ayo. And I want to again say on behalf of the entire NASA community, thank you for your efforts to help us to reach out to a different audience and to get the word out and to bridge those gaps, because we're all in this together as a human race. We're all in this exciting journey of space exploration, and we look forward to working with the entire community. Thank you very much for your efforts.
Thank you, sir.